Hey kids, it's Mr. King. I want to show you guys something really cool. This is kind of similar to a project I've done in the past, but with a couple small changes. We're going to turn everything on its side, and we're going to use a basic pop-up here, which is this pop-up square, and we're going to turn it into your dream home. So this one's really easy. It's primarily drawing. I've already done a bunch of the pop-out. If you look down over here on the table right next to the screen, there's all of these actually pre-made for you. So you don't even have to do the pop-out part, which is the hardest part yourself. So how do we turn this into a house? Well, I'm glad you asked, kids, because guess what? It's just going to be drawing. So here's an example of one that I made, my awesome little ski chalet here, and coloring. So here's another one totally finished up. This is my finished house, and as you can see, it looks pretty cool in 3D. We have something that sticks out front here and something that sits back. So we'll talk about that later when you're getting a little bit further on, but really, what I want to tell you guys all about is just all the level of detail. We're trying to create some really nice details to show how big our home is. By making things that are really small, it's going to make the home look really big. By making things really big drawn on here, it's going to make the house look really small. Let me show you what I mean by that. So I'm going to take this one right here, and we're going to turn this into our dream home. And I'm going to show you how you can kind of play with size and scale here. So first things first, squish your paper flat. What I'd like you to do first is just take your permanent marker, this black marker, and go right across the fold in the middle. Now I know you're going to have to kind of go across those cuts right there, but I think you guys can manage that pretty well. Once you've done that, I want you to actually trace around the outside of where your pop-out is cut out. So it's going to be these parts here. And then you're also going to notice that there's a fold at the top and the bottom. So just trace those folds as well. It should make two rectangles, one on top of the other, and these two lines on either side. And so what that is as I pop this out, this is going to be the rooftop of my house. This is going to be the front of my house. This is going to be the background, that's where everything is behind it, and this is going to be the ground, like the actual ground you're standing on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with a front door. Now if I make my front door really big, this house would only be enough for like a person to fit in and nothing more. But if I make my door very small, it's going to make my house like a couple of stories tall. So let's make this into a really large house by doing a pretty small door. Make a little dot right here for the handle. And that is my door. Now why is it so tiny? Because you got to imagine that we're really far up high in the sky looking down on this, and it's a really, really big house actually. So now we can draw lots of these little squares, and I like to put a little cross through it to make the windows by creating that grid right there. So we're going to do that. We'll do a couple windows that are a little bit taller and bigger above it, some rectangular ones. So rectangle windows can be a lot of fun. You can also add some circle windows on there if you want to too. I'm going to do a circle window above the door. Do the same thing with that grid going through it. And then let's do one more window, just kind of a big square right there. And there we go. So now my house is between 2 and 3 stories tall, depending on, what it just happens to be. So there's my house. It's already basically, it's done enough to say, oh yeah, it's a house, right? And it's 3D, it pops out. But let's do a lot more in terms of detail. So if you go from either side of the door, one thing I love to do is to add a path into my house. You can have some fun with that, have it wind back and forth a little bit. And if you want to separate it kind of like a sidewalk into those, those chunks, you can do that. It's kind of like drawing a ladder that wiggles. Okay, so there's a little sidewalk going up to my front door. Very nice, right? And then I can add all kinds of really cool stuff around my house too. So I could draw bushes, or maybe I want to have like a pool or something like that. But I'm trying to think of what would be really, really cool on the side. Something nobody expects. Something really, maybe even a little strange. So how about this? I would like around my house right here, I don't want just a pool. I'm going to draw, and it's going to come out of the house from the side of it right here. So I'm going to draw it right down here. I'm going to have the weirdest thing. And by the way, I'm going to actually kind of imagine this goes underneath the sidewalk here. This is going to be my lazy river. You guys know what a lazy river is? Where you go over to the water park, and they've got that river you float through the inner tubes. So you could actually draw like somebody in their little inner tube down here if you want to. But this is my lazy river. I'm just going to make some water ripples right here just to make sure people know that it's a river. And then I would definitely color that blue. But that's going to make my lazy river going all the way around and through my house. You can float around through underneath the sidewalk over here and back around into it again. Well, what else is going to go on? Well, I can make my house a lot bigger. You know how? I'm just going to draw some rectangles that come off, build off the side right here. Look how big my house can become. It's like a mansion. Big house. So remember, you get to dream it. You get to make it happen. So you can have your house be as huge as you want. Imagine that you just, you know, started the next really big company or hit the lottery. I don't know, one of those things. And you just have a whole bunch of money. Are you going to live in a little tiny house or are you going to live in a really big house? I'm not telling you which one you should do, but, you know, I think a lot of people will go to the big house. Maybe you don't need this much space, but we're just having some fun with it, okay? Gotta have some spaces to have your friends over, right? So I'm just going to draw these on and watch. I'll show you again with a pop-up what happens. You pop it up, you pop it out. Ooh, look at that. Now, if you want a kind of traditional rooftop, one that kind of peaks up at the top like a triangle, well, you could just draw it on. Right now it's a flat top building, but, you know, let's add triangles on top. Not too hard, right? All right, looking pretty good. You could keep building your house up higher and higher and higher and have crazy and crazier stuff on there. You could make a helipad for a helicopter to land on top of. You could have, ooh, you know what I'm going to do? You know what needs to go over here, down from this part, is maybe something neat like a water slide. So I'm just going to have the water slide go down here off the side. Like that. And I'm going to add some color to that in just a little bit. But that water slide comes down, and let's say that it just leads into the lazy river over here. So I would just color that blue, and you guys can see I'd be like a water slide coming out the side and going into my lazy river. So crazier and crazier stuff as you go on. Now, if you want to, definitely color this in. Definitely do that. But if you want to, you can add some 3D stuff, like I've got the tissue paper in there, which you can use to create the grass right here. Some kids like using that to actually color things in by gluing it down flat. Like if you want to do the water in the blue, you could do that. Lots of neat things like that. But I like doing some texture on the roof here just to make it feel a little bit more like a real rooftop. So if you want to add some cool things into there, you can. So that's really it, guys. You can kind of make any sort of home that you want to. Whoops. But I kind of want to see what you can dream up. And one really neat thing too is even though this is 3D and can sit on your table like that, it can also fold flat. And then you can take it home like that. So it's kind of nice that it's just really easy to transport and to pop up and show off, right? So that's it, guys. You already have the 3D part made. You should be spending your time creating. And if you already started while I was talking, well, that's totally fine too, because I don't blame you. I'd get antsy and start drawing too. So I will see you later. I hope you guys have a great time. Remember, the pre-made pieces are over this way. And so also some extra glue, markers, and erasers and pencils and stuff like that that you might, run through or use up. Okay? So I will see you guys later.